The next step in getting a property put together is getting the rehab part, and this is probably, I think, the most difficult if you don't have a system in place, and that's really what we work with as a system. Whenever you buy a foreclosure property from our firm, what we do is we send out a rehab team to give us a scope of what it's going to take to get that property rehabbed into resellable or rentable condition, depending on which direction we're going to head with that particular home. So this rehab scope is going to be kind of like a line item of here's all the things that we're going to do to the property, and then a final number of what we're doing, what the cost is to remodel this house. So that's an important part, is having this scope in hand, and you will have that before you close on the property. We'll have had our rehab team out at the house. Now, if the property needs very little work, carpet, paint, some cosmetic items, a lot of times we're walking through the property and doing our own rehab estimate at that house. So we're doing some of the work if there's not a lot of work that needs to be done, because we don't want to send our rehab team out there to go, hey, the whole house needs paint and carpet, and give us a rehab estimate on that. We can estimate a lot of those things whenever we're looking at these investment properties. So the first step in working with the rehab team is I want you to meet the rehab team out there at the property. I want you to be there, walk through the property, but the one thing I don't want you to do is to really have a lot of input on what cosmetically you're going to do to the house. Walking through the property and pointing at the new faucets and the new light fixtures you want to install are really not going to be beneficial to the property, and they're going to probably cost a lot more than what we would install, because what we're doing is builder grade quality. And I did talk about, on another video we have on our website, is making properties FHA ready, and I go into real detail on that particular video on what we do inside the property to make a property FHA ready. But you do have to pull back a little bit. Our rehab teams are really built, and I've worked with our rehab team, and he's got a big crew of people that work with him. The rehab team knows what level to take that property to number one, make it safe, sound, and secure, and marketable, whether it be for resale or for rental. And you don't want to overdo that. You got to look at yourself like a builder, and instead of buying these properties and going in there and doing a full-blown rehab, which I know some investors absolutely do, and I'm glad to see them do that. They're pushing up the market prices. That's wonderful, but what I'm doing is I do not want to be a real estate pioneer. I want to find out where the market is at, and I want to follow that market. And so the person that goes in and does all the grand work inside the property is likely to run into appraisal problems and those types of things. And once that property closes at that higher value, I and my investors ride right behind where that is at, where those prices are at, and we're fixing up our properties to builder grade quality standards. So interaction with the handyman is this. Once you get that scope of what's going to be completed at the property, the rehab amount, you're going to go ahead and contact the rehab contractor and say, hey, I need to get this house rehabbed. The day after you close, our rehab team will be at that property. So they will start that next day getting that property started. If the property closes on a Friday, they'll start on a Monday. If the property closes on a Monday, they'll likely be out there the next day on Tuesday. So they're going to go in, change the locks. They need your help, though, in one area. You need to get the gas, the water, and the electric turned onto the property. And on our website, chaseforeclosure.com, we have a link or an actual page that takes you to all of the utilities and their contact information for each individual village. You need to get the gas, the water, and the electric activated at the property. That does not mean that you need to meet people out at the property, but you need to have those services put into your name. And once you put them into your name, you can schedule up that with Bob and say, hey, the gas company's going to be here on Wednesday at 3 o'clock. The electric company is going to be there on Thursday at 4:30, and that way Bob can go ahead and start rehabbing the property. But you getting the utilities on or right after you close on that property, I think is critical to getting this process moving along and getting those utilities into your name. Now the one thing is when you do have utilities activated and put into your name, make sure the bills are sent to your personal residence or your business address, not to the property itself, because you will never get any of the bills because you'll never be checking the mailbox out at the property. So an important step is getting those utilities activated. The next step after that is getting the first installment payment into the rehab contractor. The rehab contractor needs money in place to start buying materials and get started on the project. So that would be the first installment, working with the rehab contractor, getting that up and running. Now the rehab contractor is then going to get started, and our rehab contractors are really good. They are organized. They don't do shopping at Home Depots or Lowe's or any of those things. When they do a rehab estimate on a property and a scope, they walk through with a SKU sheet and they mark down every single item that they need at the property. And then they send in that SKU sheet over to Home Depot, is actually who we use. And because we have a good relationship with the Home Depot, they will then put on a giant pallet all the items on maybe a couple pallets, and they will bring those pallets and have those delivered right to the property. They'll access the house and they'll put the pallets inside the home, so all the materials are inside that house. I think it's a real important part in speeding up the rehab process, and you and I not spending money on working with a contractor that's spending all of his time at Home Depot. The contractor's at your property actually doing the work. So some of those efficient items save you and I a lot of money whenever we're buying one of these properties. So I think that's an important part. Once the rehab starts, it's going to take 3 to 4 weeks on average to get the property remodeled. During that time, if you're a newer investor, I encourage you to visit the property a few times to see how the process is coming along, what's going on at the house, how does the process work. After you've done 2 or 3 properties, essentially what 99% of our investors do is they say, hey Bob, go out there, go to the property, you do your thing, and once you're done, the rehab is complete, you'll contact me and we'll do like a final walkthrough on the property. Something new that we've started over the last year is doing a pre-listing home inspection. So once Bob says that, the rehab crew says that they're completed, what we're going to do is have a pre-listing home inspection completed. Now there's a cost with this. It's $237, and our investors pay this to have a licensed home inspector come through the property, look at the house, and go through with a fine-tooth comb all the little items at the property, what will end up coming up on a buyer's home inspection, your end buyer, what's going to come up on that property. And so we can try to take care of those items well in advance of finding a buyer for the home. So that's another important part, and that's the pre-listing home inspection, or I kind of call it the quality control inspection at the property. So that's the next step. Once the Bob and the rehab crew and the pre-listing home inspection has been completed, the next step is to pay the rehab contractor their final payment at the property, and a lot of investors at that particular part will have their property staged. And again, I have another video on our website about staging properties, and I think the importance of staging a piece of real estate to accelerate the sale. So that's another important part, and you can watch that on our website as well. The next part we're going to talk about is getting that property back on the market for resale or for rental. So we'll start that next.